Hi, Joy Olson, Blockbuster Fundraising. Well, this has been a fairly hectic March, hasn't it? And I know that we're all a little bit disconcerted about what's going on and what our plans are. We going to have to cancel an event, etc., etc. So I thought that I would try to find something positive that we can do that we absolutely will have an impact on improving our fundraising. And I am borrowing a great idea from BLOOMERANG about the impact of improving your first-time donor retention. Something absolutely positive that you can do that will definitely make a difference. And they ask the question, BLOOMERANG does, is where will your largest fundraising impact next year come from? So they were debating this question at BLOOMERANG, the colleagues, last week. And of course, they've got some pretty strategic peeps there that have a lot of best practices that they have shared with professional fundraisers. Now, they're addressing the issue right now, a first-time donor retention. And they say that their most recent breakthrough was the addition of a data-driven approach to addressing the monumental problem of retaining first-time donors. Why is this so important? Hey, according to the FEP, the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, the average retention of first-time donors by charities across America is a mere 19%. Yikes. Yeah, that means that for every 100 new donors, only 19 of them give again the next year, and 81 of them do not renew their giving at any level. Well, sadly, most of those donors not giving again would probably be inclined to do so if even a small amount of proper attention is paid to them, or as Tom Ahern says, loverizing them to some degree. I love it, loverizing. Well, there's so many ways to do this. However, if your fundraising team can just apply a few basic principles, the 19% retention level can be improved immensely. Jay Love says his 3 personal favorite principles of doing this is ensure that the last 3 touches occur in the first 90 days after their gift is made, and make the touches as personalized as possible, and thirdly, be different than most of your competition. Well, those seem so common sense that every charity engaged in fundraising would comply, but time and time again at BLOOMERANG, they see only a boilerplate, non-personalized letter being the only response or touch used with the donor. No wonder the donors soon forget your charity's mission. If you are like most charities fundraising, a large amount of your focus is attracting new donors each year. And BLOOMERANG says that from their experience, the board meetings, the fundraising committee meetings, the conversation seldom shifts away from this topic of finding new donors. Vast sums of dollars and manpower are spent creating new special events, expanding existing events, designing mailings, or calling campaigns. And this is exactly where the math should begin. First, we often spend more than $1 to raise $1 from a brand new donor. This is not a sustainable strategy, especially if there are not large amounts of outside capital coming from grants or the government. Second, and even more important, the first-time donor rate of 19% may be one of the easiest fundraising metrics to move in a positive direction. Just retaining 10 more out of 100 new donors improves the retention percentage by more than 50%. Properly communicating with and retaining just 20 more out of every 100 more than doubles first-time donor retention rate. So, let's now carry this out with a real-world, simple example with these details. A charity has 500 existing donors with an average gift of $250 and adds 500 new donors with an average gift of $200, thereby raising $225,000 in year 1. Well, each year they've got 500 new donors that they add, and their average gift remains at $200. and their existing donor retention rate is a solid 60%. The existing donors continue to donate an average of $250 each year, but their current first-time donor retention rate is 20%, which is right at the national average. Their first-time donor retention rate improves 10 to 30% in the second example on a chart we're going to put up that you can see. Their first-time donor retention rate improves 10% to 40% in the third example. So you see this chart illustrating the differences that those retention rates can make, and it's astonishing. And we're going to give you a link to an Excel spreadsheet so you can put in your own numbers and see what even a little improvement can do for you. And again, they mention the donor retention landscape is lousy at the moment and going really from bad to worse. The latest rounds of AFP data that came out made very depressing reading, and what it says is we're continuing to lose donors at a pretty alarming rate. Over 70% of people that we recruit into our organizations never come back and make another gift. So we're caught on this treadmill where we have to spend lots of money on acquisition, which most nonprofits lose money on anyway, just to stand still. That was a quote from Professor Adrienne Sargent, okay? She's director of the Center for Sustainable Philanthropy at Plymouth University. Well, maybe you're saying, well, so what? Maybe this is the first time you've ever thought about your donor retention rate. Or maybe you've had a pretty good idea of what your donor retention rate is, but you don't think it's anything to be worried about. Here's what can happen to your donor database after 5 years. Look at this. Okay, the starting number of donors in the database is 1,000. All right, let's take a look at this. So you've got 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. And then in the second column, you see you lose 20%. And then the next column, 40%, and then 60%. Now, look at the donors remaining after a year. If you lose 20%, you've only got 100. If you lose 40%, you've only got 600. If you lose 60%, you've only got 400. Donors remaining after 3 years, look at that. 512 from the loss of 20%, 216 from the loss of 40%, and 64 from 60%. And then look at the donors remaining after 5 years, y'all. This is terrible. If you lost your 20%, you're down to 328 donors remaining out of that original 1,000. That's pathetic after 5 years. If you lost 40%, that was your attrition rate, you're down to 78 out of the original 1,000, and only 10 out of the original 1,000, it's 60%. Good heavens, you can see how quickly your pool of donors can evaporate. If you think those numbers are scary, wait until you see what that equates to in dollars and cents. Just a small change in your donor retention rate can really cost your organization thousands of dollars. And hey, once they're gone, they're, well, really almost all gone. So maybe you're thinking, okay, so what if donors don't give in consecutive years? They might come back. They might come back someday. Bloomerang and the professionals say, think again. According to the FEP, the recapture rate for lapsed donors is an astonishing 5% and has been on the decline for the last 5 years. If donors stop giving, there is a very small chance that they will ever give again. So, why donor retention matters more than ever is if a new donor gives only once, as nearly 70% do, then you're often left with a loss on your initial investment to gain that new donor. The true benefit of acquiring a donor can only come when that donor is retained over the long term. While acquisition will always be important to survive today, nonprofits need to focus on ways to keep both new and existing donors coming back year after year. Do you want to know why donors stop giving? Well, in his study, Managing Donor Defection, Adrian Sargent found out that there are some main reasons that are preventable that donors stop giving. And mainly, it boils down to the quality of their communications. Quite simply, we tend not to treat our current donors very well while instead focusing on new donor acquisition. So here's why they quit, okay? 5% thought the charity did not need them anymore. 8% had no information on how their monies were used. 9% had no memory of supporting. 13% never got thanked for donating. 16% was related to death. 18% poor service or communication on your part. 36% thought other nonprofits were more deserving, and 54% felt like they could no longer afford. So why do donors keep giving? You know why? They perceive your organization to be effective. They know what to expect with each interaction. They receive a timely thank you. They receive opportunities to make their views known. They feel like they're a part of an important cause, and they feel that his or her investment is appreciated, and they receive information showing who is being helped. You know, back a few years ago, Donor Voice collaborated with around 250 nonprofits to find out what they had done well to keep about 1,200 donors loyal for so many years. So a survey was sent to those loyal donors with a list of 32 things that nonprofits do well for their donors. The survey asked recipients to rank them by order of importance. Which items mattered most to them? Well, there were top 7 reasons, almost, that directly correlate to the findings of Dr. Sargent's survey, and they're also just as controllable. So how to retain more donors? The strategies for retaining donors are simple, but that's not to say they're easy. Oftentimes it takes a large shift in the mindset of a nonprofit organization to begin focusing on retaining donors rather than just simply acquiring them. Hey, donors want to know how their dollars are being used, that you appreciate them and value their opinion, that you consider them the real change agents as opposed to your organization, and that the communications you send them are crafted just for them. They're personalized. So you need to report on outcomes. You must thank donors quickly. You must segment your communications to allow you to personalize. You must use and write donor-centric content. They are the heroes. And survey your donors. Find out what they're thinking. Okay, so donor retention and new donor retention. There's some things that you can take action on. Positive best practices that will definitely make a big difference, not only in 2020, but in 2021. I'm Joy Olson of Blockbuster Fundraising. Find out more about us at joyolsongroup.com, blockbusterfundraising.com. Hundreds of free fundraising video tips on our YouTube channel. We love our IGTV channel on Instagram, and we're live every Tuesday, 1 p.m. So wishing you lots of good luck, stay healthy, and know that we care. Best wishes. Bye-bye.